Under the scorching sun of Giza stand stone giants. They have survived for over 4,500 years. Meanwhile, other ancient wonders have vanished without a trace. Many believe these structures were destroyed by random catastrophes. Brutal wars and natural disasters are often blamed. However, this is a grand illusion that people still believe. While other masterpieces are erased, the pyramids still hide secret voids and chambers within. Their existence is only now being revealed. Beneath thick stone layers lie spaces untouched for millennia. We still don't understand their purpose. Over 2.3 million stone blocks form this incredible structure. The Pyramid of Khufu was the tallest structure on Earth for about 3,800 years. All this stands in a place where daytime temperatures exceed 40 degrees and drop sharply at night. Such fluctuations easily tear apart any building materials, but not these stone giants. Today, we'll understand why the pyramids survived everything that destroyed the other wonders of the world. We will figure out why even the strongest earthquakes are practically unable to destroy them, and why these giants don't crumble over time, but only become more stable. Let's begin. Imagine a gigantic statue of the sun god. It proudly towers over the harbor of the island of Rhodes. All this stands in a place where daytime temperatures exceed 40 degrees and drop sharply at night. To create this bronze monster, people needed a full 12 years of continuous work. The builders did not buy metal. They collected discarded enemy weapons, dismantled giant siege towers, and melted it all into a symbol of their victory. The scale of the construction was literally mind-boggling.
Just one finger of the bronze god was thicker than an adult man.
At dawn, the polished metal flared so brightly that it blinded ship captains several kilometers from shore. But this giant did not stand for long. After 60 years, it crashed down with a monstrous roar. But in the 5th century, a large-scale tragedy occurred there. During a terrible fire, the palace burned to the ground.
They sincerely believed that the statue had angered the sun god, who personally cast it down to earth.
People were so afraid of divine retribution that they refused to touch the fragments for centuries.
They simply allowed them to slowly become covered in dust. But the real reason lies in the laws of physics and seismic activity.
The giant was not cast from metal entirely. Thin bronze sheets were simply attached to an iron and stone frame.
During a strong earthquake, the heavy upper part of the statue began to sway violently.
Eventually, the metal gave way at its most vulnerable section, at the knees. The Colossus was brought down by the trembling ground beneath its feet.
But what if a treacherous enemy comes not from below, but arises from a tiny spark? In the ancient city of Ephesus stood the most beautiful building of antiquity, the Temple of Artemis.
It was not just a religious sanctuary. The temple functioned as a real financial center and the most reliable bank of the ancient world.
Inside, untold treasures of kings and sculptures of pure gold were kept.
The construction of this complex took 120 years of hard work by the best architects. People came from all over the world just to touch the perfect stone.
The temple rested on 127 massive columns of snow-white marble and seemed absolutely impregnable.
It successfully survived many raids and wars, but was then completely destroyed by fire in just one night,
and turned into a pile of charred stones.
The priests of the temple tried to justify this loss with magic.
They claimed that the goddess simply left her earthly home. According to them, that very night she helped in the birth of the commander Alexander the Great.
Therefore, the magnificent temple was left defenseless and fell victim to evil forces. In fact, the building was destroyed by human vanity and one architectural error. Even thick, cold marble could not save the building because its roof consisted of dry cedar wood. The wood burst into flames like gunpowder. The air was filled with acrid smoke, and the sound of cracking marble resembled thunder. Due to the enormous temperature, the columns began to expand. The wood burst into flames like gunpowder. The air was filled with acrid smoke. But how could a wonder of the world, specifically designed to store water, disappear without a trace?
The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were described as a huge artificial mountain. Imagine a scorched, merciless desert where the air melts from the heat.
And suddenly, a giant green oasis rises right on the horizon. These were complex, multi-tiered terraces where exotic plants bloomed year-round and cool waterfalls murmured. To nourish this green mountain, engineers created a unique water supply system. Hundreds of workers continuously turned huge mechanisms with leather buckets. They lifted tons of fresh water from the river, directly to the very top. Water constantly flowed through stone channels, creating coolness and thick fog. Due to the complete absence of traces, many historians began to believe that the gardens never existed at all. A theory emerged that it was just a beautiful illusion and an ancient fairy tale about a lost paradise, which travelers passed on to each other around campfires. However, everything is explained by the choice of building material. The Babylonians built their terraces from ordinary unfired clay bricks, which were dried directly in the sun.
As soon as the great empire fell, the complex irrigation system stopped. The gardens were no longer cared for.
Heavy rains and wind simply washed away the dry clay. The great wonder of the world literally flowed into the river,
along with muddy streams of water. Clay dissolves without a trace, and this is a proven fact. But how could the ocean engulf a grand structure that was built from the strongest limestone?
Imagine the ancient city of Alexandria. It was an incredible cultural center where hundreds of merchant ships arrived daily. But the shores of Egypt hid shallow, sharp reefs that regularly claimed the lives of sailors.
To solve the problem, a gigantic Alexandrian lighthouse was erected on the island of Pharos. It was a colossal structure over 120 meters high. At the very top, a constant bright bonfire burned. Its light was reflected through a system of bronze mirrors and was visible 50 kilometers from shore.
Scientists are still arguing about what it was made of. Some believe it was a giant polished shield of a special bronze alloy. Others are sure that engineers used thick glass with a silver backing. During the day, this mirror worked like a huge lens. It caught the sun's rays and sent a rescue signal far beyond the horizon. And at night, it multiplied the light from the bonfire.
To maintain such a gigantic flame, a colossal amount of dry wood was required.
Egypt is a desert. There are almost no dense forests. Therefore, wood was brought on huge merchant ships from afar, and it cost a fortune. The lighthouse literally burned the empire's money every night, just so ships could safely return home.
Inside this tower, real life was boiling. Along the wide spiral road,
and on the lower tier, a garrison of 300 armed soldiers was on duty, ready to defend the harbor from pirates.
This lighthouse proudly illuminated the path for ships for hundreds of years, but then began to slowly sink into the water, until the bay completely hid it. When the lighthouse began to collapse, local residents came up with many mystical explanations.
Legends appeared about an ancient curse of sunken Atlantis. Sailors whispered about giant underwater creatures.
They believed that krakens furiously rocked the base of the tower with their tentacles. That's how they wanted to extinguish the blinding light.
That prevented them from sleeping on the dark bottom. But the reality turned out to be related to geology. The main reason for the fall was the subsidence of the seabed and powerful tsunamis. The Mediterranean Sea is a very unstable zone where continental plates constantly collide.
In the 14th century, several devastating earthquakes occurred. The ground, under the weight of the stone foundation,
The stone platform literally sank and submerged. The rigid structure of the tower could not bend.
So the upper tiers simply broke off and crashed into the waves. The enormous height became the main drawback of the tower in a seismic zone.
Tall buildings inevitably fall, and clay melts under the rain. But what happens to masterpieces made of precious metal?
After all, gold does not rust and is completely unafraid of water. Let's move to ancient Greece.
In the very center of a huge marble temple sat an awe-inspiring figure, the statue of Zeus at Olympia.
The masterpiece was so huge that it seemed if the god wanted to stand up, he would break through the roof of the sanctuary. The sculptor created this structure from a wooden frame and plates of rare ivory. The creator's workshop was like a secret laboratory. To obtain the ideal shape, ivory tusks were long soaked in special solutions. The bone became soft, and it was carefully bent at the desired angle. It was processed so that in the dim light of torches, it looked like living human skin, and the god's clothing, his scepter, and the details of the throne were cast from tens of kilograms of pure gold. An important detail was that the golden plates were not permanently nailed to the wood. These were removable elements. The sculptor did this specifically so that the gold could be easily removed, weighed, and prove that he stole nothing during construction.
a pool was carved in front of the statue and filled with thick olive oil. The oil protected the bone from moisture
and magically reflected light directly onto the golden robes. When people stood before this god, it seemed to them that the figure glowed from within. An important detail was that the golden plates were not permanently nailed to the wood. These were removable elements. Athletes came here before the start of the Olympic Games. They took oaths before the huge face of Zeus, promising to compete fairly and without deception. Ancient writers noted that the sight of this statue took people's breath away. Many fell to their knees and wept with delight. In antiquity, it was even said that if a person died without ever seeing the Olympian Zeus, they had lived their years absolutely in vain. The craftsmanship of the creator was so incredible that even wild birds constantly tried to build nests in the golden folds of his clothes. Mistaking the god for a real shining mountain, the statue sat in its place for many centuries and then mysteriously disappeared without a single trace. When the temple was empty, faithful people sincerely whispered that God himself took the statue back to heaven. There was even a beautiful legend. When the Roman emperor ordered soldiers to dismantle the statue, it unexpectedly let out a booming laugh.
The scaffolding collapsed, and the frightened workers ran away. But the main enemy of any wonder of the world is banal human greed.
The statue was destroyed by its own exorbitant cost. The golden plates represented a huge capital.
That very ingenious idea with removable parts killed the masterpiece. When the temple was left unguarded, the gold was mercilessly removed. It was quickly melted into ringing coins to pay mercenary armies. These coins then spread throughout the world, sponsoring new conflicts. And the wooden frame, stripped of its precious armor, began to rapidly rot. The ivory was carefully removed and sold to wealthy merchants. The remnants of the ancient masterpiece were moved to another city, Constantinople. They were placed in a luxurious palace of a collector. But in the 5th century, a large-scale tragedy occurred there. During a terrible fire, the palace burned to the ground. The wooden frame of the statue burst into flames, and the ivory, from the monstrous heat, simply crumbled into gray ash.
When a monument costs a fortune, people themselves become its destroyers. So, dry wood burns.
Tall towers fall, and pure gold is stolen. How then did the giant pyramids manage to survive all these global catastrophes?
The oldest wonder of the world turned out to be the most resilient and stubborn.
The Great Pyramid of Khufu stoically withstood dozens of the strongest earthquakes, the fall of civilizations, and constant raids by looters. This fact is so striking that conspiracy theorists still shout about alien technologies. On forums, people seriously discuss acoustic levitation, with which priests allegedly made stones fly through the air. Many sincerely believe in hidden energy shields, which allegedly protect the Giza Plateau from any natural cataclysms. But the secret of immortality lies in ingeniously simple physics. The Pyramid of Khufu is not just a huge mountain of stones. It is an incredibly precise, earthquake-resistant mechanism. It has an incredibly wide base and an extremely low center of gravity. Imagine a child's sand pyramid. You can hit it or shake the ground around it. It may crumble a bit, but it will never tip over. This fact is so striking that conspiracy theorists still shout about alien technologies. On forums, people seriously discuss acoustic levitation, but modern excavations completely disproved this grim myth. The pyramids were built by free, highly respected, and well-paid masters. Next to the giant construction site was an entire city with bakeries and hospitals. Workers received excellent food,
and their health was carefully monitored by the best doctors of antiquity. Another striking detail is the absolute cosmic precision.
The faces of the pyramid are perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions. The possible error is only a couple of tiny angular minutes. And this is despite the fact that the builders had neither compasses nor complex optical devices. They oriented themselves only by night stars and shadows, but they achieved a result that is incredibly difficult to repeat even with modern lasers. The blocks are fitted to each other with such amazing precision
that it is impossible to pass even a thin blade between them. The builders used a unique binding solution.
It turned out to be stronger than the limestone itself. Scientists still cannot accurately decipher its chemical composition
and replicate it in modern laboratories. And the pyramid also knows how to adapt to tremors.
The stone blocks are not rigidly fastened. During strong earthquakes, they can shift slightly, absorbing the destructive energy of the earth and then returning to its place. Inside the pyramid, to prevent the colossal weight of the stone from crushing the inner chambers, engineers installed huge granite lintels.
These stones divert pressure to the sides, so the pyramid simply has nowhere to collapse inward. Moreover, this stone mountain works as an ideal natural thermos, no matter how scorching the sun is outside.
Even if the sand heats up to 50 degrees, inside the pyramid, a constant temperature is always maintained.
It's exactly 20 degrees Celsius there. This reliably protects the inner stone from thermal expansion and deep cracks. Many rulers tried to destroy this wonder. In the 9th century, an Arab leader gathered an entire army of
workers, hammered the walls with heavy rams for weeks. They lit giant bonfires right next to the stone, heating it to the limit,
and then poured cold vinegar to crack the limestone. And what was the result?
They only managed to pierce a pathetic, narrow corridor, spending a fortune on it. The pyramid simply withstood this blow.
And each of its blocks weighs so much that it turned out to be too heavy and long to steel for the construction of other buildings.
The Egyptians built not just a large building, they created a real artificial mountain on a reliable rocky foundation. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like it to continue uncovering the exciting secrets of ancient civilizations with us.
Against the canvas of the cosmos, the pyramids are illuminated, timeless guardians of the desert night. Behold the pyramids of Giza, a spectacle of ancient wonder and modern illumination.